Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top? And how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. Are you kidding me? Friends, this is a special one. This is one of my favorite episodes, and I love them all. This one is incredible. You are going to hear from a mega agent who then turned into a coach, who then turned into an incredibly savvy real estate investor. But that's not all, friends. She picked up her entire family and she moved them to Jamaica so that her biological kids could live with 24 orphan kids in an orphanage. They all are living together, and she has an aha. She realizes she needs to find a way to make more passive income. That sets her on a path, and she ends up purchasing 50 properties in 62 months. Friends, I'm speaking about none other than Heidi Fore. She is going to tell us exactly how to go out and buy that many properties so you can have the passive cash flow to fund your dreams. This episode, it's going to make you laugh. I promise you it's going to make you cry, but above all, it is going to give you a model to go get everything you've wanted on the investment side. Sit back and buckle up. This is Heidi Fore. Heidi, how are you?
I am so happy to spend time with you today. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's an honor for us to have you. I'm so excited about this episode because I truly believe every one of our shows is fantastic. This one can change your life. Audience, you don't know what I mean yet, but I promise you, this one can change your life and your kids' lives, and you're not even going to believe what's about to happen. All that aside, because we'll get there, I ask everyone the same question. Heidi, how did you find the greatest industry in the world?
It is the greatest industry in the world. The opportunities are huge. I have always had a passion for helping people through challenges, right? Being a professional problem solver. And that's what we get to do here. And when I graduated from college, I had studied marketing and business, and I was going to go to law school. And I eventually, because I had some family members that needed my help, their health was bad and I needed to help them, I found that real estate was a great blend of marketing and law. And that was back in 2002, because I get to, study contracts and work with attorneys in real estate. And I get to do marketing for sellers and for my business. So it was a good blend of advertising and law. And yeah, that was back in over 20 years ago.
So Gary Keller described our industry to me, and he said, Jason, the opportunity of real estate in this industry has never changed. Number one, you get to have a sales career. I come in and I become the best consultant salesperson I can. Number two, you can turn that consulting career into a sales consulting business. And then number three, you can invest in real estate, and your career embodies this so perfectly. Walk me through each of those as it related to you.
Yes, such a great opportunity. Just in opportunity number one, which is being a professional, guiding people through large investments, like buying a home, selling a home, investing. I started that in 2002, which is on my own, solo agent. And after 5 years, I had realized that I had gotten really good at making websites that people wanted to keep coming back to. And it was always about the Louisville, Kentucky and Southern Indiana and Northern Kentucky areas. And people who were moving to those areas would find me, and they'd find me on YouTube. And back then, there weren't many agents that had websites on YouTube. So I got really good at that. And it got to the point, though, that I was out of time in my day. I was working 8 a.m. to midnight, get up and do it again every day of the week. And I realized that I couldn't sell any more houses because I ran out of time. And that was after about 5 years. I was in the magazines and getting all the awards, but I really thought to myself, if I don't find a better way of doing real estate, I'm getting out of real estate because I am not enjoying the life, the working so many hours. Even though I'm really good at it and I enjoy it, I wasn't enjoying the personal life and time with family, which is so important to me. And so in 2007 is when I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the book, and started going to some classes around it on hiring people to work the systems that I had developed and become so good at implementing. So that was in 2007, and that grew and it started growing beyond Louisville, Kentucky, and into Southern Indiana and up towards Cincinnati, Ohio, and in that area. And by 2015, 8 years later, the team members that were working with me were running those plays so well in those areas that it allowed me to move to Jamaica for 4 years and volunteer with a wonderful organization there. And they were still selling 100 homes a year in the United States while I was living in Jamaica. And that's opportunity number 2 that you mentioned earlier. And then in 2018, the very, very end of 2018, I moved back from Jamaica to the United States. And I got really intentional in 2018 about opportunity number 3, using the money that you make from the sales to buy assets that appreciate in value and provide cash flow. And that's what I've shifted my focus to since 2018. And that's where we are now.
I love that. And we're going to unpack that one in detail. Friends, you don't want to miss it. But I want to back the train up for a second around this idea of Jamaica. Because you say, I have this epiphany, I left and went to Jamaica. And you say it in a sentence, but it's a hell of a sentence, Heidi. Was it just you or did you have a family in tow?
It was me, a husband, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
Wow. And why Jamaica?
We went there for like a short volunteer trip, we being myself and a friend that I worked with. And we were doing some volunteer work at Robin's Nest Children's Home where 26 children lived. And they needed help and they needed the kind of skills and talents that I knew that I could give and that my husband could give. My husband can fix anything. And I told him, I think that it would be great if we could go there for more than a week. And I would love to show it to you. So we went for 30 days. We went for the month of June after the kids finished school for the year. And after the month of June, we realized we're supposed to be here. Like it was like this feeling of this is the next chapter of your story, Heidi. It was so strong. And I told my business partner, Kristen, I said, I feel like I'm supposed to stay in Jamaica longer. And she said, I got this. And she—
Wait a second.
Yeah.
You feel like you're supposed to stay in Jamaica longer. What does it feel like?
Standing at the top of this mountain where this children's home is. And I'm just looking around and I just had this feeling like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. I was made for this moment and I can handle whatever happens next. And I know it's risky because I have a very successful company back home in the States. And I just trust that it's going to be worth it and it's going to work out and that I have the right people around me to make this happen.
When you get there, what happens next?
So we start off living there at the children's home with my 2 biological kids and my 26 other new members of the family that were around us. And with this home being at the top of a mountain, the electricity would come and go. Sometimes we didn't have electricity. And it was very difficult for me to keep communicating with my team and my Keller Williams team in the United States. So we ended up, after a while, renting an apartment nearby that had more consistent electricity. And I would log in every morning with Zoom to talk with my team members that were still helping our buyers and sellers in Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio.
You weren't just helping with your time and your love. You started helping financially.
Yes. And this is something that came out of a class I went to called Bold. And it started from that. I started a charity that has the aim to reduce the failure rate of orphans and foster kids as they age out of the system.
It's this need to help others. Gary Keller, and by the way, if you're new to the show, when we say Gary, we're talking about Gary Keller. Him, together with Dave Jenks, may he rest in peace, and Jay Papasan wrote the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that Heidi mentioned earlier, that also happens to be the namesake for our show. So he always says that the minute you realize that money is simply a tool that you can use to help others, you instantly get greedy to make more money. so that you can help more people.
That's
And
right.
this idea is what drives you to master the art of real estate investing.
That's right. I know that the more money that I have, the more people I can help. And I know that the more money that I can make through passive income, the more time I get back to volunteer. And I currently live in the United States and I volunteer in the US and Jamaica, and it takes money to do that. So making money is good for the good that it can do. I also wanted to have more passive income and less active income, job income, so that I could be a mom more to my kids and my foster child at the time and any foster kids that we have later. And I wanted to be able to homeschool my kids if needed. Sometimes they haven't always excelled in school. And I get to do that now because the plan worked. And I do get to work less hours and cover our bills from passive income. So I get to volunteer more and be a mom more.
The plan worked. Tell me the plan and tell me exactly how to do it. Friends, this is the Bewitching Hour. We are about to switch gears, and Heidi is going to tell you exactly how to execute the plan to create as much passive income as you need to live your life's mission. Now, you do not have to take notes. I'm taking the notes. I got a pen in hand. The notes come out every Thursday. They come out in an email. So if you don't get that email, you should sign up, MREAnotes.com. That's MREAnotes.com. Heidi, tell me exactly how to go make enough passive income to live my dreams.
Absolutely. I have written it all down into 4 easy to remember steps. What I've realized is that there are many paths to creating a fortune. And some people do it through Bitcoin. Some people do it through just savings. Some people do it through flipping houses. Some people do it through commercial real estate. And so what I'm going to describe is just the path that I took. And I know you've got other people that you have interviewed and will be interviewing on this podcast that will describe their path to their fortune that they've made and their passive income. And the passive income method that I've chosen is residential real estate, rental properties. So I'll share with you the 4 steps now. Number 1 is define your path, the path that you want to take to your finish line, wherever that is for you. For me, the finish line is Financial Freedom Day, where I can volunteer as much as I want, or be a mom as much as I want, or hang out with my husband as much as I want, wherever we want, and have our life funded by passive income. And so I defined that path for me. And that's where I think the starting point is for everyone is where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's your path to get there? And what are the mile markers on your path between where you are now, where you want to be?
When you sat down to put this into effect in your life and you chose your finish line, which was this Financial Freedom Day, were you going to know it because you felt it? Did you assign a number to it because Gary says the path is in the math? How did you think about that?
I assigned a number to it to do the things that we wanted to do in our life and help the people that we wanted to help in our life and the organizations that we wanted to serve. I needed to figure out how to make $15,000 a month. And looking around at the investment opportunities that I could find using the financing methods that I had available, I realized that I could make $300 a month per unit. And so to get to $15,000 a month, that was going to take 50 units.
Okay, that's brilliant. So the path is in the math, and the math is always the path, friends. Step 1, define your path.
Mm-hmm.
Understand where you're starting, where you're ending, what the mile markers are in the middle. And for Heidi, it was, I want to make $15,000 a month. I can make $300 positive cash flow per rental. Boom, I need to go buy 50 properties.
That's right. So then we come to number 2, the second part to that. Have enough conversations with enough people to find the properties, find financing, find renters, and find help. Find help for things that you can't do or choose not to do. And here's the secret. The more conversations you have, the luckier you get. Oh, you're so lucky you found these houses for so cheap. Yeah, well, the more conversations you have, the luckier you get. And that part is what takes the longest in this whole financial freedom path is the conversations.
So as I think about number 1, finding the right homes, number 2, finding the financing, number 3, finding the renters, and number 4, finding the vendors, in my mind, this breaks into 2 buckets. Number 1, knowing precisely what to say during the conversation, and then number 2, creating enough of these conversations.
Absolutely. The other part is allocating that time every day consistently until you have enough conversations, and having that mindset, that belief that this will work, this plan will work. I've got to just keep consistently doing those things, having those conversations.
Before we get into exactly what to say to each one, can you walk me through how to create the conversations? Because some folks will say, well, look, I'd buy some houses, but I don't have any quote unquote leads. I don't have any deal flow. How do you create that?
Once you know where you want to buy, and then you know what you want to buy, then the conversations simply are, I'm looking to find a blank in the blank area. Who do you know that I should talk to? It's that easy.
It's that easy. And you created a lead generation model around direct mail to help you generate these conversations. Tell us how that worked.
So I started a postcard mailing that was very, very simple. The front of the postcard was a handwritten note with my hand and a black marker that said, I'm Heidi, and I'm wondering if I can write an offer on your house. And that was it. And then I did another similar one 6 weeks later to the same group, and another one 6 weeks later to the same group, the same potential sellers.
And it had your phone number on it, if I'm not mistaken, your cell phone.
It had my cell phone, and it had a personal email address.
You know, everybody they say, well, I got to make this look all professional. In our pre-interview, you told me you wrote it, took a picture of it, and then went to a place where you could get the Christmas cards online and literally just printed them like that.
That's right.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, it was so easy. And I wanted it to not look professional. I wanted it to look like what it was, a one-on-one conversation with me. From me to you, I'm Heidi. I want to know if I can write an offer to buy your house. I didn't want it to look like it came from this huge company that buys thousands of homes.
So then what happens next? Do people start emailing you or calling you?
Both.
What does it look like? When they called, what did they say?
Well, some people said, I'm never selling my house. And I said, I'm happy for you. That's great. If things ever change, keep my postcard. And some people said, I got your postcard. I'd consider selling that house. Like the one I'm thinking of right now was on Center Street. And I said, okay, well, should I just mail you an offer? And he said, no, I'd like to meet you for coffee first. Then so we met for coffee, and he was kind of, well, the grumpy old landlord. He was kind of gruff and a little bit harsh. And then after coffee, and my husband walked through the house with him, and we got the offer to him, and he accepted it. And we got to closing, and we're at closing with him and his wife, and she like elbows him, and he said, okay, I'll ask her. He said, how many more of these do you want to buy? And I said, how many do you have? And he said 11. And I said, I'll buy all of them. So that's how one postcard turned into 12.
Unbelievable.
Well, his wife was nudging him because she wanted him to sell the properties and spend more time with her and the kids and grandkids. And so that was a problem that she had. And his problem was he'd been doing this a long time, and he was kind of tired of being a landlord. And I was able to solve that problem for them. And so I still get to be that professional problem solver, just in a different way.
So walk me through the math. How many postcards were you sending? And then ballpark, how many calls were you generating?
Probably got 14 units from 1,400 postcards.
You bought 14 units from 1,400 postcards.
Yes.
That's absolutely tremendous.
I was sincere when I sent out these postcards that said, I would like to make an offer on your property, because anybody that I sent that postcard to, I was ready to write an offer on that property. So it was a genuine and sincere advertisement. I don't just send it to an entire zip code and I may or may not have an interest in their property. So I just want to tell everybody who's listening, only send out mail if it's true.
If you were going to do this again tomorrow, would you send that same postcard and go at it the same way, or would you choose a different lead generation method?
I would do it exactly the same. I would go to all of the investor networking events. I would talk to all of the real estate agents in the office, tell them exactly what I'm looking for. I would send the postcards again, and I would do the posts on social media. I would join the groups online and send messages to people that are active in the groups about what I'm looking for. I would do it all exactly the same.
So number one is define the path, figure out your math.
Yes.
Number two is make sure you have enough conversations. Were you just rich? Did you instruct the agricultural department to plant the money tree? Like, because everyone out there is like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. I can send postcards tomorrow, but I don't have the money maybe to buy the real estate. How did you think about it?
We only paid like cash for maybe 5 of them, from like just saving cash and really reducing our lifestyle.
Tell me more about that, because some people aren't willing to do that. What does that mean?
It means driving a old Honda that you bought from a family member for $2,000. It means not getting nails done. It means not going on lavish vacations for a while, living in a small house. And one of the ways that we did accumulate some of these properties that we bought was by moving into houses that needed a lot of work. And my youngest, who's now 14, on one of the houses we walked in, he looks around and he says, "Why do we always buy dumpy houses?" And I said, "Because we make money with dumpy houses, buddy."
It's so good. How do you finance the rest?
I love the cash out refi loan method. Here's a story on one. I found one on an auction site online. It was $50,000. I won the auction, and at $50,000, no one outbid me. It was that bad of a house. And my husband went in and changed the flooring, painted it, put in new light fixtures, did some landscaping. And then we went to a local lender and it appraised for $102,000. And we did a 75% cash out refi loan. And so we got $75,000 back out of this house that we paid $50,000 for. And that was an example of how we recycled that money to go do it again, and did it for another house and another house and another house. For some of the other properties, we would move in and then turn it into a rental property. And then after there was a large enough equity, we would do a 1031 exchange for a different property. And sometimes we would move into a property, fix it up while we lived there, and while it's still a primary residence, get a home equity line of credit on it for the equity that had been built up by the improvements, and use that as a down payment on a fourplex. So we just kept finding ways to buy these properties without just growing money trees. And then here's a fun thing that you can do if you have someone, if you're a real estate agent and you have an investor that maybe they try out being a landlord and they don't like it and they ask you to sell their rental house. This is what happened to me. The investor said, I want to buy a rental property. So we sold him one. We helped him buy one. And then he said, I don't like having rental property. I want to sell it. So he sold it. And we're at closing. And I said, where are you going to reinvest this if it's not in rentals? He said, I don't know yet. He said, I just need some time to think about it. I'm just going to park it in a savings account for a year. And I said, well, if you want to loan it to me for a year instead, I could give you a whole lot more money than your bank is willing to on your savings account. So I borrowed that money for a year from him, and I used that to go out and buy a duplex and a triplex. And then I went back to that same bank from before, and I said, can we do another cash out refi on these 2 properties? They said yes. So I got all that money back, gave all that money back to him, to that investor. He was happy because he got more money working with me than he would have had putting it in a bank. I was happy because I got 2 more properties that I wouldn't have been able to get because I didn't have the cash to buy them. And the person that we bought it from was happy because he was tired of being a landlord too, and he wanted to get rid of them. So it was a win-win-win.
It's so genius, and there's so many different ways to do it. And friends, if you want to hear more about the method that Heidi laid it out, it's called the BRRRR method, by the way. And we actually interviewed David Green, who wrote the book, literally the book, on the BRRRR method. So go back and listen to that show, because we literally spent an hour unpacking that system. The thing I love about what you're saying, it's so gritty, Heidi. There's so much grit, because you were unwilling to not do it. And you just got so darn resourceful. You live completely outside of the box. You just look for ways to make deals.
I like to go to investor networking events where other investors are, and then I listen and learn. When you're in a room of 150 other real estate investors and they're making deals and they're talking about financing, and we can learn so much and go faster and go further when we're sharing. And I love getting in rooms where people share, just like what you've created here with this community.
All right. What's step number 3? I defined my path. I'm having my conversations. I'm starting to buy some real estate. What's next?
Track your numbers and follow your systems. Systems for collecting income, a system for paying expenses, a system for doing paperwork, and a system for communication. once you have defined your procedures, things become easier and it really starts to feel like a growing business. And you start to be more profitable when you have those systems. And you don't know if the systems are working if you don't track your numbers for each of those things. So track your numbers, follow your systems is step 3.
How do you get the systems? Like if I'm sitting out there and I'm like, okay, I have no idea how to do any of those things, what would you tell me?
Well, I'd tell you to go to my website. It's my name, HeidiFore.com. And there's a lot of different buttons you can click on to see my systems. As you do define what works for you, you should write it down and document everything. And then talk to other investors about the tools that they're using that might make your life easier, that might make collecting the income easier, it might make paying expenses easier. What websites are they using? What apps are they using?
What websites are you using? Teach us.
I'm using Stessa.com for collecting income and tracking rental payments. It has a really great platform for tenants to be able to see what their payments are, when their next payment is. And I've tried the other competitors to it, and it's the best one that I found. And you use it for bookkeeping as well. It categorizes the expenses as well, so you don't have to have a separate thing for that. And I use Google Forms and a Google Form add-on called Form Publisher for creating leases and applications. And I use Google Voice as our communication method for communicating with tenants. It's been absolutely great because tenants can call or text on it, and either myself, my husband, or my assistant can answer the phone and respond and to a tenant's needs. And that's been great.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay. Number 3 is track my money and my numbers. What's number 4?
Reflect, revise, and repeat. You just go back and do it all again and see what's working, what's not, is carving out that time to say, what is working? Let's keep doing that. What's not working? Do we need a person to help us, a system to help us, or a tool that would help us? And do we need to buy any more properties, or are we done? And you just keep reflect, revise, and repeat until you are done, until you can say, no, we're good. We're at financial freedom. We have enough passive income to do all the things that we need. Our net worth is what we always wanted it to be. We're living the dream. We can stop.
You had a goal at the beginning of this of buying these 50 properties that each were going to make $300 a month so that you'd have $15,000 in a month in passive income to live the life. Did you ever actually get to the 50?
We did, actually. And after getting the momentum going, getting about one a month. So one a month for 61 months is 5 years.
Is that how long it took? You did that in...
Yep, 5 years.
You say it so nonchalantly. It took you 5 years to accomplish the goal, which I love, by the way, of 50 properties. I got so many questions. Here's the first one. As soon as you had the 50, did you look up and pop a bottle of champagne and say, we made it? Or had life changed and you looked up and said, we need another 30. We're going to keep going. What happened?
Even though I didn't need to buy anymore, the momentum that I had put in place caused more to keep coming to me. And because I had already put into place all of these conversations, I already had these conversations and sent out the postcards and had already done the social media posts and had already gone to all of the investor networking meetings and talked to all the agents in my office, the deals kept coming in. They keep coming in. And because I know how to finance them so easily, I did continue to buy them, even though I'm not actively looking.
How many do you have today?
65.
At the beginning of this conversation, we talked about this desire to move away from active income into passive income. But owning 65 houses, someone's got to manage them. Someone's got to play handy person. There's make-readies when someone moves out. Heat furnaces break. Toilets break. It's just stuff. Tax bills are due. Insurance goes up. So is it really passive or is it active just in the investment world?
Right now, it's active in the investment world because my husband and I do so much of those things that you just said. We've divided the responsibilities into in the office, outside the office. If something can be done in the office, that's my lane. My assistant and I handle things that can be done inside the office. For anything that has to be done at a property or outside the office, that's my husband, Sean, it's his lane and his assistant. So that's how we've divided it up. And right now it is us doing that. And it won't be forever. We have another 5-year plan. This will be when our kids are out of high school that either, we will have our assistants do everything, or we could just sell it all. But we won't be working in the business anymore after 5 years.
I used to own hundreds of single family homes. And I remember every time it rained, I'd lay awake and I'd wait for the phone calls about roofs. And every time it would get below freezing, I'd wait for burst pipes. And I remember weather greatly impacting the way that I felt about the world. And I found it to be incredibly stressful. Number one, do you find owning all this property, which is an awesome responsibility to provide people a place to live, stressful? And number two, on the days that it snows, how do you handle those?
One of my favorite phrases is choose your hard. This is the hard that I've chosen. And it is hard when pipes burst. And what we found is that last winter, it was very cold and there were pipes that burst and they had to be fixed. But when we fixed them with a long-term solution so that this winter, we haven't had any pipes burst. Some of the things are a one-time hard. And each year that we own these properties, the amount of service calls, maintenance calls that we will get will be less and less because we're putting in place long-term solutions.
Love that. When I lay awake at night, there's a street that haunts me. It's called Madge. And it haunts me because in my entire residential real estate portfolio, there was a home on Madge that no matter which tenant I put in it, they trashed it. It sat empty. If there was a bolt of lightning in this town, it was going to hit that house. It was the worst performing piece of real estate any human has ever owned. Did you have any of those in your portfolio? And do you ever sell anything? Because I sold that house happily, but then other investors say, don't ever sell real estate.
Our first one 15, 20 years ago, when I was just getting into real estate, we bought a triplex and it was just problem after problem, like you're saying. And we didn't know what we didn't know. I hadn't had enough conversations yet and didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know what questions to ask to solve the problems. And it was just so stressful, like you were saying, and keeping us up at night that we did sell it. And we didn't buy investment properties for years and years and years until 2018, when we felt like we were ready and that we knew we were going to do it differently this time.
Yeah, I love that. By the way, there's another street called Morehouse, which I had the same tenant for 15 years and there was never a problem. So if you're out there and you had the nightmare and that's kept you from putting your toe back in the water and you're a real estate professional, I'm urging you to get back into the business because selling pieces of this country is a great thing and helping others do it. But owning more pieces of it, that's the brass ring of this industry.
It is. And you know what is really helpful is when you buy it low enough in an area with decent appreciation, then you always have the thought in your head that I can always sell it if I hate it. I can always sell it. And that is a comforting thought. And there have been days where my husband has been really frustrated about one of the properties. And I said, "You want to sell it?" "No." "Okay, we can always sell it." And it's just nice to know that we're making the choice daily to keep it.
I love that. I literally believe you could listen to this show, go take action tomorrow and start building. But the road of entrepreneurship is often a lonely one. If people want to go hand in hand with you on this journey, how do they get more of you? Where can they find you? What would you tell them?
It's Heidi Fore, Heidifore.com. And I have a podcast. I have YouTube videos about these things, telling you exactly what I did, how I did it. And I'm currently writing a book. So buy the book when it comes out.
All right, Heidi, I want to invite you into our special theologic garden where we talk about the greatest questions and the deepest ideas of life. Will you join us?
Absolutely.
You pick up the whole family. You move to Jamaica. When you look back on that experience, what's the one thing that you pass on to our audience today?
Many of the people that are listening to this podcast are ambitious people. And because they're ambitious, they might feel dissatisfied in some areas of their life. And being dissatisfied with what they have and dissatisfied with how good their business is performing, and it drives them, but it also can be a negative feeling too. So looking back on my time in Jamaica, I think that whenever I felt like I wasn't doing enough there, or I felt like I wasn't making enough money in my business, I realized that I had to stop and say that my ambition is the reason I was able to help as many people as I've helped. And therefore I can be grateful for the ambition and the dissatisfaction.
How many times, ballpark, did you move within those 7 years of Jamaica and then the 5 years of building the rental portfolio?
6.
6 times.
Mm-hmm.
And your kids were between what age during that?
Yeah. So when we moved to Jamaica, they were 4 and 6 years old.
Looking back on their childhood now, and now seeing them as becoming young adults,
Mhm.
what's the one or two things that you've seen that you've instilled within them that you don't think they would have had you not went on those adventures?
Everything is figure outable. We'll figure it out. Everything is an adventure and everything is figure outable. We'll embrace the journey.
I love that.
I think that they have big hearts. They want to do big things in this world. The 16-year-old is almost at the point where he's got his pilot's license, both for gliders and for powered aircraft. They volunteer every week for about 3 to 4 hours. They're good kids. And I think that they learned that along the journey as well.
Heidi, final question for me. Money is clearly a tool for you. You've used it to change the lives of others. You've used it to change your own. As you look out over the next 10, 15, 20 years of your life, what's the thing that you're striving for now?
Well, now the money that comes in from the rental properties, it's paying down the loans, it's paying down the mortgages, which is nice. So then we'll be debt free when those are paid off. So that will be nice for me personally. But what the money will do for others is keep giving to my charity, Choose, Live, Lead. We fund whatever children need that are living in childcare facilities. If they need backpacks, if they need school fees covered, if they need uniforms, that's what the money does now. There was an organization in Jamaica that wanted to buy a house to house 5 boys that were transitioning out of a childcare facility, and they had nowhere to go, and they needed like $15,000 more to buy this house, and our charity was able to do that so that we could buy homes for kids without homes. So that's what the money is going to do next. More things like that.
I think the world of you, and if I ever face a judgment day, I get points just for having known you. And I can't tell you how much I need the points and how grateful I am. I am so crazy about your mission and the way that you see the world. And I feel so hopeful when I meet people like you and I get to spend time with them. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, you're one of my favorite people on the whole planet, Jason. And I am absolutely grateful for every minute I get to spend with you as well. So thank you.
Thanks for being with us today. I told you. I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. When she's standing on that mountaintop and she realizes that that's where she's supposed to be, I can't imagine what that feels like. That sounds so profound to me. That sounds like a movie. It sounds cinematic. And the fact that she's willing to pick up and follow that dream, but that her family was supporting her in doing it. This idea, and she's so clear on it, the real estate industry offers an incredible opportunity in order. Number one, I build an incredible sales career. Number two, I turn that sales career into an incredible business. And then number three, I invest in real estate. Friends, anybody out there that's trying to convince you to make your wealth doing something other than that is trying to sell you something. Ask me how I know. Say, Jason, how do you know? Here's how I know. Because when you study the wealthy, you find that they're heavily invested in owning businesses and in real estate. That's how the wealthiest people make their money. And you're dead set in pole position in each one of those things. You know, Heidi is so clear. She didn't wake up in the morning and sporadically send postcards to an entire city. Number one, she picked her avatar. What's the type of real estate I want to buy? And for her, this was single-family homes. Then she defined her location. Where do I want to buy them? She did it in 3 zip codes that were close to her that allowed her math to work so that she could purchase the homes and then have $300 per home monthly cash flow. Then, of course, the business model. How was she going to finance these homes? And she wasn't buying it unless she could make the $300 per month. And then finally, deal flow. Friends, deal flow, whenever I talk to real estate agents that say, I want to invest in more real estate, it's that they're missing deal flow. What deal flow means is how many of the type of real estate you want to buy, in the location you're willing to buy it, that might fit your business model, show up on your desk every week for you to look at. If you only look at 1 deal a week, friends, you're going to buy average or bad deals. In Heidi's case, she sends out those postcards and the deals just start coming in. You know, I was thinking the other day, Why do you think so many people invest their money in the Dow or in the NASDAQ? I'll give you one of the reasons is because it's instant deal flow. They don't have to go out and lead generate at all. They simply have an index, they have an app, and boom, they buy something. You want to go make a ton of money in real estate. The person that has the best leads of the type of thing they want to buy, the most deals to look at, is going to get the best deal. That's the genius here. That's what Heidi Fore understands. She never stopped lead generating, and because of that, she was able to buy the best deals to finance this giant life. Any of us can have it. Go forth and do likewise. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week, and every week we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points in the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. Head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.